And welcome to 66 Days to Success. I'm Jeff Ondash, and we've got a great show for you today. You know, we always talk a lot about setting a goal, attaining a goal, accomplishing that goal, and moving on to other goals. A lot of us have problems with that first goal, like me right now, and those Twinkies that keep all of a sudden appearing in my grocery basket, and that's why you're not seeing me down to the weight that I said I would be back in January, and this is April, and I'm not anywhere near there yet. But that's another story, because this show's not about me. Today it's going to be about a fellow that's from Youngstown, Ohio. He's a good Mahoning Valley kid, and he set a goal at a very young age to be a champion, and he attained that goal. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about how he got there. And then once he attained the goal, like we all hope to do with this weight and a few other things that we're trying to do, but we're going to try to see what the next goal would be. Does there need to be another goal? If you've done what you wanted to do we just sit back and is that it? Or do you move on with your life and go after setting some more goals? So that's what he's going to tell us about. This young man is Kelly the Ghost Pavlik. He was a middleweight champion of the world. Started out as a young kid at 9 years old as a local amateur fighter, worked his way up the ranks, 7, 8, 9, 11 tough years before he got anywhere in the sport, before he made any money. But he was undefeated at that point, and he finally got his break, became the middleweight champion of the world, and then went a little bit further, fought a little bit more, and at the age of 30 years old, decided, I've had enough in this sport, I'm done. I've attained my goal, I've done everything that I set out to do, and I'm pretty well set with what I wanted to do. I'm okay with that. But was he? Did he want to sit back? Did he just want to live the rest of his life with nothing more to do? I guess you're going to have to watch this interview and find out. It's very informative. He's a very engaging and entertaining young man with a lot to say. And if you want to see the real Kelly the Ghost Pavlik and the real kid that he is and the real young man that he's come to be, the husband, the father that he's come to be, and now the local entrepreneur that he's going to be, sit back and watch this edition of 66 Days to Success. And we're back to 66 Days of Success, and as promised, I'm sitting here with the former undisputed, that's a big word too, undisputed middleweight champ of the world. You're pretty proud of that, because when's the last time that happened?
I don't know. You know, to be honest with you, to kind of figure it out, everybody called me undisputed. You know, and I believe some of the commentators from HBO called me the undisputed. I was really the lineal champ. Okay.
Which deals with ring, right?
Yeah, the ring. And usually the ring goes to the undisputed champ too. So I guess overall you could have said I was the undisputed champ or lineal.
But you were the guy. They looked at you as, they didn't look at you and this guy being champ.
When you get the ring, when you have the ring belt, that is pretty much you are the man.
You're the middleweight champ of the world.
Yeah, you're the top one in that weight class.
That's pretty big, pretty impressive thing to accomplish. So you're little Kelly Pavlik. You're growing up in Lansingville, up on the south side of Youngstown, 8, 9, 10 years old. Did you have any aspirations, any idea that this is where you wanted to go someday?
No, I knew I wanted to be something big as far as sports goes, and I loved combat sports. I actually started off with martial arts, standard martial arts like taekwondo and karate, and taking nothing away from it. You know, I got a lot of friends that are in it, and it was fun, but it was just not enough go for me. There wasn't enough action, and it was just kind of boring for a 9-year-old who wanted to do more. And then I was still playing baseball and pee-wee football, and my older brothers were screwing around with the boxing, and I just kept asking my parents if I could go, and they didn't want me fighting. You know, they knew my brothers weren't going to fight, and then finally it just all happened one day. I went to Southside Boxing Gym, and Jack Lowe wasn't there, but Harry Arroyo was there, and that's who I got to meet the very first time I went in there.
Pretty big name to meet when you're a little kid.
Very big. You know, at that time I didn't know who he was either. And I remember like leaving, and we got in the car, my mom goes, "You know who that was in there?" And I'm like, "No." And she's like, "That's Harry Arroyo." Now, I still didn't know who Harry Arroyo was, but when she told me that he was a world champion, you know, lightweight world champion, as soon as you hear that as a kid, that's all you need to know, that he was
that's
somebody.
A big deal.
Yeah.
Big deal. What a great guy he is, too.
Oh, he's phenomenal.
To this day, I'm just one of the nicest guys, most unassuming men you'll ever meet, that you would think that this guy was really a fighter, a really good fighter, too.
He's funny, too, a guy. Harry's one of my good buddies, and I've always looked up to Harry, and I still think he's one of the best who come out of the area.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. So you're 10 years, then when did you start fighting as a kid?
That's still up in the air. I think I had my first amateur fight in '94, and I was just 11, but I started when I was 9. It took time for me, I sparred a lot, but between playing baseball and football, I wasn't really in the gym a lot, maybe 5 months out of the year, and Jack took his time with me on that, and we had a handful of amateur fights that we were supposed to have, and the opponent never showed up. So it took me all the way till almost 12 years old before I had an amateur fight.
And just so you know, in the amateurs, there's something called the Junior Olympics.
Yes.
So when you're a JO fighter, when you're a Junior Olympic fighter, it's a certain age on down. It's mostly for the smaller kids. The weights are like 60, 70 pounds, 80 pounds, 1 minute rounds. It's just to get kids indoctrinated into the sport. Very safe.
Yeah.
If you had a kid out there, it's a great thing for a son or a daughter to get involved in it. And so you're 11 years old. You're moving on up now, and
the fights. Again, I played baseball, or I played football till I was 12. PB football. I played for Little Redmond. Then I went over to Austintown and played with them. And I think the big moment came when I was 12 years old, and Mike Cifaldi, who was the coach of the Austintown Colts, we had a hell of an opportunity. We were playing a team coming in from New York, and it was going to be under the lights at nighttime. So, because usually in Pee Wee football, you never really played under the lights. And that was a big opportunity, and I was really excited about that. But this big tournament, Junior Olympic tournament, came up too at the same time. So I was put in a situation to pick between one, and I knew that missing this boxing tournament was a big opportunity, and I could lose that opportunity. So I passed up the game after the season was over, and playing under the lights against this New York team to go fight in this tournament. And after I made that choice, even at 12 years old, I'm not saying I was nowhere near the smartest 12-year-old, but I just kind of realized at that point what I really wanted to do, where my heart was actually taking me to go do. So
how'd you fare in that tournament?
Fairly well. I lost at the in the championships to a kid that had well over 120 amateur fights.
And this was in 91?
94.
94?
Yeah.
So
95.
you then moved up and you became, in 98, you won the National PAL Amateur Champions. You then became the National Junior Golden Glove Amateur Champion at welterweight 147. And then again in 99, you won the Under 19 Amateur Champion at 147. So that's pretty impressive. So now you've got some notoriety. You're rising up there pretty quick, and people are taking a look at you. What happens then?
Well, that Under 19 tournament was actually one of the biggest, because that is an open division tournament too. It's a ranking tournament, and
that's when an open division means that you're fighting the best of the best. Now you're fighting guys that they take the sport serious.
Exactly, and Under 19 is a huge one. It's in Marquette, Michigan, which is along with Colorado Springs, the two top places training for amateur fighters, the top amateur fighters in the country to go to. And after I won that tournament, I fought a lot of good guys in that. Fought 5 nights in a row, and that was huge. And that catapulted me all the way up to number 4 in the rankings.
As a welterweight.
Yeah, as a welterweight. And unfortunately, that fight happened in August, and the World Under 19 Championships didn't happen until December. So that was just a big period of time for me at that age, to stay at 147.
And I was just to say, how tall were you? Because you're about 6'2", 6'2" and a half now.
Yeah, I was right there. I hit believe it or not, very late, I hit a little growth spurt. I grew about an inch, a little over an inch. And so I couldn't make that 147 no more. And that's when I went up to 156. And, I fought in the U.S. Championships, and I qualified for the Olympic trials. One of the youngest kids ever to qualify for the United States Olympic trials. And, I came in second place, fought a lot of good guys, upset Darnell Wilson, who was going for a record 6 years in a row, winning that tournament, the U.S. Championships. And a lot of big things happened when I let myself naturally go up in weight, to where my body was going to be at. And even though that was only one weight class, a lot of big things happened. And, that opened up the door for what was going to happen in the pros.
So, and did you keep your weight at 156 when you started as pro, or you were middleweight?
Actually, some of the fights were at 154.
154
yeah.
at 6'2".
Yeah.
That's amazing to keep, to be that height and to be that weight and to maintain that weight.
Well,
That's
going on what we're probably going to talk about here in a little bit. I'll touch on being that weight and why and I kind of bounced around from the 160, 155, 154.
But when you're coming out of these amateurs now too, you got discovered. You had a lot of notice being number 4 in the world as an amateur.
Yeah.
The big boys started taking notice of you and took a look at you, and one of them signed you.
Yeah, Cameron Duncan. We had, I was fortunate. I had Lou Duva come to my house. He sat down. Lou Duva was big promoter for Evander Holyfield and many other world champions.
He had a local guy here. Rusty Rosenberger was.
Yeah, he did. We've all heard the story on
the story. Yes, we have. The drink.
Yeah. But Lou Duva was huge. He had his company, Toro Gotti, who a lot of people know, and he came to my house, sat at my table. You want to talk about being shocked and kind of like, going, this can't be real.
You went from all of a sudden from one level to a whole different level.
And you see a guy like Lou Duva driving down Cornell Avenue in south side of Youngstown into a little house, and the limousine has to pull in front. We have to park it up at St. Matthias parking lot because there's nowhere on the street for it to park without taking up somebody's driveway. And he comes to my house, and he only had one other guy with him, and it was just an amazing moment, and I took that in, but we didn't sign with him, and we had our reasons why, and then Cameron called us again, and we had many other people out there that wanted a piece, and finally he just explained to us about Top Rank, about Bob Arum and how they like to bring people up, where Duva kind of was more concerned what he did with Holyfield. He brought Holyfield up, in increments. A weight class and got him up to heavyweight, and that's kind of exactly where Lou Duva was going with me. I was the same height as Holyfield, so it seemed like the entire conversation was around how he got Holyfield to heavyweight and how he was going to get me to heavyweight. And at that point, I'm fighting at 160. I mean, I'm so skinny. If I turn sideways and stick my tongue out, I look like a zipper. And so I'm not thinking about going to fight 6'4".
Yeah, right. That's
200
a big jump, putting on 40 pounds.
That was one of the main reasons, though, for not going with Duva. And we gave it time. We listened to what Top Rank had to say. Cameron Duncan, who was a phenomenal manager and agent, who had numerous world champions, we stayed with him, and I think that was the best bet. And especially now, after my career is over, looking back at it, that was the best choice that we made.
Yeah, because it kept you level. It kept you in that middleweight area. So you started out, one of the things that people look at, they see your career towards the end. They forget about the career at the beginning.
Yeah.
You were undefeated for a long time. You fought for 12, almost 13 years as a pro.
Yes.
But the first 7 years were those development years. You took a lot of fights in a lot of bad places just to fight, just to start getting those wins. But you didn't make a lot of money back then.
No. And, it's very dangerous to be pro that long. A lot of people don't understand. Yes, even if you're good, you have nights in boxing, and anything can happen in that moment. A lot of these guys were getting real title shots who I was ranked ahead of in the amateurs, and they were getting real title shots in 2004 and 2005. I was already pro 4 or 5 years, and I wasn't getting them shots. Not only was I wasn't getting the shots, I wasn't even getting any TV time. I had a couple ESPN2 appearances, and that was because I was a swing belt. So finally, I think in 2006, we had that Versus Network came out, and they started putting some of my fights on there. They put the Leonard Pierre fight that was in Youngstown. Bronco McCart was on there, and they started giving me some airtime. I had the Spanish channel I fought on a lot early in my career, but yeah, it was a hard road. And when you go 7 years undefeated, against fighting guys that you're not really familiar with. You're not getting much film on them. To stay undefeated is a pretty hard thing to do, and I think that I was able to stay the course on that and show that I could be, a guy that you put on HBO.
Where did you turn the corner? What fight was it that you thought possibly made the bend where, yeah, I could do this?
I'd have to say the Bronco McCart fight. First of all, Bronco.
You were 27-0 when you fought him.
Yeah. Bronco McCart, was he past his better years? I'm very realistic. Yeah, he was. Not much, but he was past his better years. But at the same time, Bronco never even been dropped in his career against many very good A-level fighters.
This is a guy that you kind of liked. I mean, this is
I
an
love
idol.
him.
I mean, this
I
is a
love
guy you
Bronco.
watched on TV growing up, and this is kind of like Marciano and Lewis and Holmes and Ali. They didn't want to fight their idols.
Yep, I just had him on my podcast and was talking to him about this and telling him, because he knew I was a fan, but he didn't know how much. And when they told me that I was going to fight him, when I got the call, I'm like, oh my goodness, no, I don't want to fight this guy. I love Bronco McCart, and I knew how he could fight because I watched him. I didn't have to get film on Bronco McCart. I've seen him fight almost every time he fought on Tuesday night fights. And it was hard. It was really hard going into that fight, like training to hurt him, but we did. And, it's funny how the mind works. Once you start getting into training camp and you know that your career is on the line and and especially for somebody like me, a prospect, this is why I try to tell a lot of young kids that are fighting and people that are fans of the sport. I say, for somebody like me being the record that I had and fighting Bronco McCart, I wasn't supposed to knock Bronco McCart out, and the main reason why Top Rank gave me that fight was for me to get rounds, for me to maybe go 10.
Yeah, because he had a good chin and he
very
could
good
take
chin.
it deep.
Yeah, and he's been in the later rounds, and this was a 12-round fight. So that was the main reason for putting Bronco McCart there. He was going to give me a little test there for a period of time. I was expected to win, but maybe go 10 rounds, 11, 12 rounds.
And it was a 12-rounder because it was an NABF
title fight. And the reason why I say is because when I got in that fight, I actually had fun. I stayed in the pocket a little too long, but that's because I wanted to. I took shots, but I was picking them all off with the elbows and my shoulders and the gloves, and I stayed in there. And if you watch the way that I just systematically broke him down with body shots and head shots, and then, just to stop him the way I did, I think that was a turning point in that fight where, like, not only did I take him out fairly early in this fight, I probably could have taken him out anytime I wanted to. And my defense, I thought, was superb in that fight. Of course, it looks like I get hit, but I pick shots off a lot. And I think that was probably the point where I knew that me being a world champion was legit. Was reality.
So your next bout's at home against Pierre. Mm-hmm. That was another 12-rounder. You won by a 4th-round TKO. Mm-hmm. Then you had Zertucci. That was a TV fight, wasn't it?
Yes, HBO.
Another 8-round knockout for you. And then now you're getting close. You're real close. You got Miranda coming up. And Miranda, after Miranda, big things are there for you.
Yeah, well, what's funny about that is the Zertucci fight, you want to talk about my luck in boxing. Zertucci fight was a #1 mandatory WBC title fight. That's why after the fight with Zertucci, I had the big green medal on that said WBC. So I'm thinking I got a shot now with Jermaine Taylor, and that's how it was supposed to be. That's why I was on HBO. And maybe like 2 weeks after the knockout, I'm waiting for the phone call, like the date and time to fight Jermaine Taylor
for the
world
title,
championship, for the world title. And Zertucci was a rugged opponent. This is what people forget. Like, he was avoided by many fighters. They weren't just going to put Kelly Pavlik on with Zertucci because a lot of people still didn't believe in me at that point. So they put Zertucci in there kind of like a real test for me. He was a dangerous Mexican-style fighter. And when I went there and beat him up like that and won it, and then 2 weeks later I get the phone call, and it's from Cameron Duncan, and, hey, Cal, well, you ready? You ready for the good news? And I'm going, what? He's like, you're fighting Edison Miranda for the mandatory, the #1 mandatory spot. That took a lot of air out of me that day because I thought I was fighting Jermaine Taylor.
Now you had one more to go.
And of all people, Edison Miranda. Edison Miranda was the most feared fighter in that boxing at that time. in all of boxing at that time. He hit like a mule. He put people out. He just came off that fight with Arthur Abraham where he broke his jaw in 8 different places. And so you want to talk about a hard road and taking a lot of air out of you. You find out you got to fight Miranda now when you thought you were getting a title shot.
Then another 12-rounder.
Yeah, and we went through him. So
along this way, were there times when you said, man, I don't know if this is me. I don't know if I can keep doing this. This is a tough sport.
You're talking about before 2006?
Yeah, I'm talking about right up to, Miranda or before. I mean, were some roadblocks that you hit sometimes when you might have said, damn, I just don't think I can do this too much longer, man.
Well, we talked earlier, and when you just brought up, early on, it was hard. The money was far in between. There was a lot of fights that were canceled because hand injuries happens a lot in boxing. Especially when you're a power puncher, and I had a lot of hand injuries early on in my career, and none that put off a fight where I sat out for a very long time, but it pushed the fight back a month or 2 when you're expecting to get paid. Talking about the weight classes, I was doing construction work,
along with training
in the summertime.
You were an excellent roofer, from what I understand.
No, I wasn't. No, I wasn't. Nobody called me to come do a roof.
Thank God.
And that's when I actually, some of the fights I was supposed to fight at 160. I'm billed as a middleweight, but when you're working up on a roof all summer long and then you're going to do a boxing workout, I was actually fighting some guys at 156, 155.
That's amazing too. At your height.
Yeah, at my height. But I was busy. I was doing landscaping for certain companies. I was doing washing dishes. Believe it or not, 2006 what really motivated me. Beginning of 2006, I had a job. I would wash dishes, and a bread guy comes in and goes, "Champ, what the hell are you doing here doing that?"
And then right after that, you're fighting McCart.
Yeah, I'm fighting McCart after
From
that.
dishes to McCart, and an NABF title.
Yep. So but that happens. That is the road. I mean, I was making more money than some of the average guys coming up, but I was also now at 22, 23 years old. You want to start being an adult. You want to have things, and you got to have extra money. The $4,000, every 4 months is really not.
Yeah, no, when you break it down,
it's not.
It's not a lot to live off of, and but you got to keep going. But
my daughter was born in 2006, where the extra money really needed to come in.
But you were getting close now.
Yeah.
So now you're almost to the point. When you started your pro career, you obviously had the eyes on a prize. Did you really believe in your heart of all hearts that you would ever attain to get that middleweight title fight?
Yeah, I did, in a very weird way. It was just like I knew something was due to happen from a young age. I sacrificed a lot of things, especially in high school. To get where I was at, and I see some of the things that I accomplished. You hear a lot of people say like, "Oh, well, I did this too early and I wasn't ready." But some things that I did in the amateurs, and not even so much in tournaments or fights, some of the things that I accomplished in the gym, in sparring sessions with people, I was 14, 15 years old, sparring number 2 ranked heavyweights. I was at
147.
I was at between 147 and 154 at that point, and I was going in sparring a number 2 ranked in the country super heavyweight who was 6'6", and hurting them. You've heard some of the testimonials that people know about this, and very guys who were getting ready to fight pro for world title fights or preludes to world title fights, and I'm in there sparring them, and I'm in their butt pretty good to where I'm told to cut back, hold back a little bit. This is gospel. This is the things that you
don't want to take
hear.
the guy out before he loses his chance
so
for the fight.
I think at that point, Jeff, that I knew this was going somewhere. This was, or I had a very good chance. You don't ever know for a fact that you're going to be a world champion, and it really gets where the closer you get because you start expecting the flukes to happen. My biggest concern a lot in the fights was, what if he gets lucky and hits me with something? Yeah. What if I'm beating his butt for 8 rounds and he hits me in the ninth?
Yeah, the one you don't see.
Yeah.
So you do beat Miranda, and now you get your shot. You get the call.
Yeah.
And this is it. Now you're going to make. This is a tough question to answer. What was more important, the money or the chance to have the title?
Oh, the titles at that point. First of all,
because more money would be down the road.
First of all, that money, that's all you got. So,
you're the challenger.
Yeah.
So you're not even fighting the champ wages yet.
No, exactly. So
because you beat Miranda, he had to fight you because you were the number one contender.
I was the mandatory.
So it was mandatory fight. He could not go around you.
No, he couldn't. And
now you're fighting a guy. This guy's what? He's about 6'1" too, right?
Yeah, 6'1".
So you guys are like eye to eye. This was the fight to happen in all the boxing back then.
Yeah, it was. To this day, what was a bigger fight, the Miranda or Taylor fight? I don't know. I think they both were big because Miranda was that type of guy who was the top guy in boxing, and that was obviously huge. Not only just to beat Miranda, but the way that I beat him. Then of course, Taylor. That was important because that's the world title. Like you mentioned earlier, once you win the world title, those bucks are coming in now too.
Yeah,
you can call the shot. Now
you got the bullseye on you.
You got the target on you, and
but in the first fight, something happened to you. And was it second round or third round? That doesn't happen very often in your career. It happens to good fighters all the time. But you took the shot and you went down. You got a little woozy, and what went through your mind right then and there?
Well, that's like the what was his name? Letterman question, or not Letterman? Who's the other broadcaster?
Leno?
Merchant. Larry Merchant.
Oh, Merchant, okay.
Yeah, he asked the question, what was going through your mind? And that's when I gave the famous, oh crap, it's going to be a long night. I said that after the fight in the interview. That was the only thing going through my mind. To be honest, I remember everything that Steve Smoger said in the locker room before the fight. He said, as long as you can show that you're holding on, you're grabbing, or you're throwing punches back, I'm not going to stop the fight. I was bouncing around that ring a little bit, but every time I grabbed him when I was going past, I put an arm on him. When we were in the clinch, I would hit him, throw a punch to the body, and my legs slowly started coming back in that second round. I knew he expended a lot of energy. And
Have you been hit that hard before?
Oh, yeah.
Miranda
hit 3 times harder than Jermaine Taylor. It was an equilibrium shot. It was behind, right above the ear. Nothing you could do about it. I put my head in that situation for him to hit me there. And it was when you get hit there, you know everything that's going on. I can literally pinpoint somebody's voice in a crowd and know who it is. I know that, but it's just like your legs don't want to stay with you, and they're hard to catch,
So you get back up, you go to your corner,
and
you slowly get it back.
Yeah.
But this is a telltale of really kind of your whole career, the fight that you had all the way up, and it's kind of poetic that it happened that way, that you get down, you get knocked on your keister, and you get back up Youngstown style, and you win the title and you knock him out in the 7th round.
Yeah.
Which nobody, not want to say nobody, which most people didn't expect it at that time, and you beat the champ, and now you're world middleweight champ, undisputed, the guy in the world. Now everybody's coming after you. Now what? Now what do you do? Can you handle this?
Yeah. It is what it is. I got.
What changed? Did Kelly Pavlik change with this fight?
No. It was you got the perks, and I made a lot of good friends throughout that period of time. Other professional athletes and whatnot. A good amount, obviously changes. Your life's not your life no more.
Your public kind of owns a little bit of you.
Yeah.
Whether you like it or not, that's what happens.
And and everything you do, but there's also a lot of good things that come with that. Like I mentioned, there was numerous charity events that I was able to be a part of. That was great, and when you're able to give back that way and to be involved with it, those are big things that you could. That you get to experience, and you get to also do it along with other professional athletes, and you guys do it as a team, and a lot of great things that do come with that. Being able to talk to the Ohio State Buckeyes the night before the Michigan game, one of the biggest rivalries in any sports. Those are some of the very, very nice perks that come with it. But we stayed focused on what we had to do in between that time, though. It gets very demanding, and I was just talking with a young kid who's a world champion, Mikey Garcia. When you're a world champ now, you have autograph signings they want you at, okay, even before you go into training camp. Then you got charity events. Then after that, you got to go, and the promoter wants you to start doing press conference tours for an upcoming fight. The fight's not even signed yet, but they want you to start doing this. So now you're going mainly to New York if you're an East Coast guy, Philadelphia, New York, Atlantic City. That's where you go all the time. So your time really gets spread very thin, and you have to try to stay focused. And even when you're in training camp, Jeff, you can be in the middle of training camp trying to make weight, and they will call upon you to go do something out of nowhere, the promoter or somebody.
And you got to be there.
You have to do it.
Yeah. So now you beat Taylor, and now was there a mandatory thing in the clause for a rematch? And you have to fight him again.
Yes.
And he's a tough dude, man.
Yeah, they wanted that fight out of catch weight, so obviously he was having a hard time making 160. Like I said in the pre-fight conference, I said, well, that's good for me. I said, because I get to eat more now, so I don't matter.
And you can go 165 easily.
Yeah, and we won it. I think what was really great about that fight right there was the fact that nobody gave me a chance to win that fight. They thought if I didn't knock Jermaine Taylor out, I couldn't beat Jermaine Taylor. Yeah. And I went in there and outboxed him. And Jermaine fought a really good fight that fight. He fought a very smart fight that fight. And he was
stayed away from your power. That was his big thing. He
didn't
want
a lot of little things. Yeah, ropes. You watch how he spun off the ropes, and his footwork was really good for that. Him in that fight was a Jermaine Taylor that came up and beat the Bernard Hopkins, and the Jermaine Taylor that won the bronze medal in the Olympics, in the 2000 Olympics. So that was good to go in there and show people that I could outbox this kid.
Yeah, because you're known as a puncher. Yeah. You're not known as a great, obviously you got some boxing skills, you got some chops there, but you weren't that guy. You were the puncher. Yeah. And he was the boxer.
In that camp, which I wish we would have done more throughout my later part of my career, we really went back to my amateur days and the beginning of my early pro career. We went back to doing a lot of work that got us, at the point we were at the amateurs. Towards the end of my career, after the Miranda fight and after the Zartucci fight, even after some of the fights in Youngstown, the Pierre fight, I kind of started training in that mode to back people on, be a power puncher, a brawler. As to where earlier in my career I was that slick boxer, and if you go back and watch some of my early fights, that was on ESPN and things like that. You can see that the hand speed, everything, the footwork was totally different than it was towards the end.
So you just had to go back to it. So you fight him, unanimous decision, which is a great win for you because you go to distance with a great fighter. That kind of solidifies who you are. You beat Lockett, and then something happens to you that never happened before.
Yeah.
You fought Hopkins and went to a unanimous decision. Bernard Hopkins probably going to go down as one of the greatest middleweights ever. Very slick boxer, a good guy. And a setback. Fighters have those nights, man. You just have those nights. A lot of things, like you said, a lot of things happen in a career. Could be an off night, could be an injury in training camp, could be an illness. Things happen.
Yeah. I had to let you read a book by Thomas Hauser that he wrote. He was in a locker room before that fight. And I'm not going to talk about why or how I lost that fight now, but I think it would be a good read for you to read it.
Love to.
I could even send you a picture of the text. You could read 2 of the pages, but
you were ill. You had a little. You were not feeling well.
Oh, it was very well documented. But the big thing is my career is over, and it's not going to benefit me.
No, it's not about making mistakes. Things happen. There's nothing. 40-2 is a tremendous.
So when I say
career.
I just don't want people thinking that I was making things up. Finding an excuse. It is what it is.
And it's Bernard Hopkins, too.
Yeah, of all people to have an off night.
Yeah, this guy, he's tremendous. He's one of the smartest boxers out there.
I will just leave it at this. People will go, did you learn anything from that fight? And to be honest with because everything that he went to do in that fight, I kind of knew he was going to do. And of all people to fight Bernard Hopkins when you can't pull the trigger, when you can't get the punches off that you want, it's horrible. It's like a nightmare, because he's that good and he's that smart. And it was just one of them things where after the second and third round, I kept going back to the corner telling Jack, I'm going to warm up. Knowing that I probably wasn't going to warm up. And then after the 5th round, it was more so, we're not going to win this fight, but I don't want to get stopped. The ego thing came into play. Then by the 10th round, I was kind of like, hoping that somebody would throw a damn towel in me. My head hurt, there's cuts all over the place, and you suck it up though, and we got through that one. I didn't learn anything from that fight because I feel like if I was at 80% or 85% Kelly Pavlik in that fight, and I would have lost, then I could say, you know what, we need to go back to the drawing board and work on some things. But it was just one of the fights where you have to let it happen.
Then you had a couple more wins, couple more losses. One more loss, excuse me, and then you end your career at 42-2, and you decide to call it quits. At 30 years old, you're done. You've accomplished things that most men could only, in the 1/1,000,000th of 1% of the people in the world. You've created yourself a tremendous lineage of success. You've put some money in the bank for yourself. You've got something that nobody could ever take away from you. Undisputed middleweight champ of the world, which is just an incredible feat to have. Nobody, you're going to die with that, and 100 years from now, people will still talk about that. But you're 30 years old, dude. You had this goal, at some point after the McCart fight, and you knew that, okay, I want to be middleweight champ. You attain it. You get it, and now you're retired at 30. What do you do?
Yeah, I was done with it. You know what I mean by that? The Andre Ward fight fell out, and I was really excited about that fight.
Andre Ward, you wanted that was set to go.
That was set, and he ended up with a legit shoulder injury. He had the surgery on it, and I kind of lost it. I was up, I was in California training. It was great. I learned a tremendous amount of knowledge I gained out there being with Robert Garcia, but I was just fighting the Aaron Jacobs and Roel Brzezinski's and Scott Sigmund's, and I was done with that.
Which is a step backwards for you, though.
It is, and I understand, maybe the first fight because I'm with a new trainer, but then the Andre Ward fight came, and when that fell out, there was no more meaningful fight out there, at least for another year and a half. I think the Super 6 was still going on. There was nothing, and I kind of started losing it in hair for it. I kind of, from a couple of years before that.
It ain't easy cutting weight at 160, and we didn't even touch on that, and we should have, because for your size, it was hell for you to maintain to be a middleweight fighter.
It was, I don't even, now I do it because of health reasons, and what I'm doing as far as owning gyms and stuff like that. I watch a little bit of what I'm eating, but not to the extent of what I did when I was fighting. When you do it for a living, you don't want to do it, just like running. I'm pretty sure if I didn't box and that wasn't my job to run, I'd be one of them guys you see at Mill Creek Park every day running, with my cool little shoes on. But I don't want to do that now. And but when I got to that point, I told my kids, and I told my wife that I was going to retire at 30 years old. I already had promised, and this was when I was 24. I just didn't have it. I don't need the money. I had a total of 4 belts sitting there in my trophy case that are shined and kept very nice and are pretty. I'm done with it.
And when the heart goes, that's when you can get hurt.
It's not the hobby to have at that level.
Too brutal of a sport.
Yeah, and people don't understand. They say you retired young. I think they just remember 2007 when I won the title was when my career started. It didn't start, and I was pro years
started
before
when you were 11 years old, actually.
Yeah, you don't sign a contract to keep everybody happy. You don't. In boxing and in other sports, by the time you're 32, 33, they call you a veteran, especially in baseball. Well, what do you think boxing, 32, 33 is, especially when you were doing it at 9 years old? It's a brutal sport, and it's not a longevity sport. These people that stick around too long in the sport end up in situations and have health problems that it's not worth it. What good is all the money?
Yeah, you already have the money. You've already
and I want to be able to count that when I was 60 years,
right.
55
You've got the belts. You've done everything you did.
So that was the main reason for.
But now you're retired. But you can't just sit back and sit around and watch Price is Right every day and eat some Cheetos, man. You got to have. Did you put another carrot in front of you, or did you take some time off and then all of a sudden say, I got to do something. I need to set another goal here.
I've always had a great financial team behind me, and I've had believe it or not, great people, immediate people in my career, where I was fortunate. When I said I was retired, I was good, and I was retiring. I've had investments, from the day I retired, even when I was still fighting, But those investments were more so staying on my phone, looking at it, and taking care of it that way. I didn't do anything. I got done with boxing. I didn't even watch boxing. It was just I wanted nothing to do with it. I didn't want to work out, but I was still fortunate keeping everything going that I had going. And then I ended up with a buddy of mine, Tank DeCiccio. We ended up involved in another investment in real estate, and it was a really good investment. And then again, that was another investment where it didn't take much of me hands-on or anything. So probably about the last 8 months to a year, I really wanted to get involved, my hands back into it again, and working with people and being involved with people. In the last a year ago, we started a podcast, which is taking off very, very nicely right now. And then, of course, I bought this gym now that I'm doing. It's a fitness gym.
Well, you started getting into some powerlifting yourself.
Yeah,
too, as a hobby.
I started doing that as a hobby, and that's fun. That's going, but I don't know how long I want to stay in that. That like I was telling you guys.
But you moved from that 160 to we're not looking at you at 160 right now.
Reason being is because I don't have to watch my weight.
That's right.
Actually, powerlifting consists of me eating a good amount. So
you need the weight for the strength.
Yeah, I had no problem doing that. It was not a problem.
That's a good perk of that sport. You picked the right one.
Right, that's it. That's the main reason.
But the powerlifting kind of took you into your next endeavor after working with Tank on the real estate thing. Then you came in, you found a gym, and all of a sudden now you're an entrepreneur. You're an owner of a gym.
Yes. Again, we have a guy here, a manager who helps out a big amount, and he's a great personal trainer. He's been doing it for over 30 years. Roy Thomas, so he's here at running the gym and is doing a great job. And it's kind of like me staying active in the gym. And then my next future endeavor will be, hopefully shortly, another gym, a boxing gym.
So you can do have some amateurs there, and hopefully some pros someday.
Pros, and I think it'd be easy to get some pros.
You want to get into training yourself?
Yes.
So you'll be the trainer at that gym. Yeah. That'll be kind of like you giving back to.
I will not be the mop boy. So.
But that's kind of you giving back to where kind of it's coming all full circle now.
Yeah, it is.
Going back to it.
And I would like to do it. It's going to be here in my hometown.
You have two daughters.
A daughter and a boy.
Daughter and a boy.
Yeah.
Will he fight?
He can box all he wants, but
would you encourage him to?
No.
You would not. But if he comes to you and says, "Dad, I want to fight amateur,"
of course. I think everybody is their own person, and you gotta let everybody do what they want to do to an extent. I was talking about as far as what he wants to do sports-wise. If he wants to box, let him. I really hope he don't want to do it. And I'm hoping he don't.
Make a lot more money and a lot easier throwing a curveball in the pros than you can getting hit by
or
left
a golf
hook.
club. Get him a golf club. I even told him, I was like, dude, I'll take you to some of the best, instructors or wherever you got to go for golf, man. Pick it up. But he's into other stuff too, though. So boxing, he goes to it and he does it. He likes it, but he's not really like I was.
Not yet. You never know. Different things hit different people on different levels.
I still need him to get that one little jab to the snout and see how he reacts to that.
Right. After you eat the first one, then you know.
Then you have a better idea.
That's me. I could have been world champs if I couldn't take a punch. So that was that one little thing that held me back.
Yep. That's like saying I could have won the lottery if I would have got that last number. But.
Right. So now you have this gym here, and this is your first endeavor. You're going to go into a boxing gym. Other things might come along for you, but you're not going to sit back. You can't. You just don't sit back on your legs.
Not now. I'm busy. You know what I mean? Like I said, when I was off, I had things going though, so my mind was constantly going. But now, I'm more into the part of getting into the gym stuff, and this is where I'm going to be the rest of my life. The gyms were what I did. I was in a gym all day long.
Bronco's got a gym up in Michigan.
Exactly.
He's got his own.
If it was a boxing gym, it's the YMCA. If it ain't the YMCA, it was Rockies. If it ain't Rockies, it's Ironman Warehouse. So, I was in a gym.
All right, and this is coming along so far. How long have you owned this place?
Since January.
Since January. So January. 3 months, and it's already, the membership is grown exponentially already.
Yes,
and it's continued to grow. You're adding new machinery.
Yep.
You really want to take this. It's a 24-hour place for people to come and
Yep. This
workout.
is Columbiana, 144 East Park Avenue, and it's Columbiana, Ohio. Again, we got some new equipment that not too many gyms got around, especially around here, or even in Mahoney County. Our prices are very low, so it's fun though. The main thing when you come here, that's why we named it My Gym. So when you tell people, hey, where are you going to work out at? My Gym is.
It feels like theirs.
Yeah, you feel at home, and everybody here, before I even bought it, when Rocky had it, the members are just unbelievable. They're all nice, and they keep to themselves, which is good when you're working out, but you don't have to worry about anything, and it's very nice to be here and have a business here.
All right, so, and you're going to keep it for a while, maybe a little bit of expansion. Got
Yes.
some, you might even be talking about some classes coming up here. And is there a website that they can go to for this? Working on one?
I think we are working on that right now. We're still in the process of it. So they can find us on Facebook too. Put in My Gym.
That's M-I.
M-I. Yes.
GYM.
My Gym. Yep.
So get on there, check them out. Undisputed middleweight champion, former middleweight champion of the world, now entrepreneur, gym owner in Columbiana, Ohio, with other things coming on the way. And you keep giving back to the community, so thank you. That's cool. Everybody appreciates that. One of the things that when we do interviews and we talk to some people, a lot of people do a lot of things that you never hear about. And Kelly's one of those type of guys. He's not going to be the one that's going to be doing something for a charity or doing something for a community and be out front. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that he never gets credit for, and that's really not fair to athletes and just citizens like Kelly. They do an awful lot. They give a lot of themselves, a lot of their time, a lot of their money, a lot of their efforts, and he is definitely one of those type of guys. You've come a long way in our area. You showed us proud. You won a world title, brought it back here. Did a lot of things that just some people could never ever envision, even attaining. Let alone even getting into the top 10 is a great thing. You won it. You stayed there. You've done well for yourself, so congratulations. And I wish you well on My Gym. I'm sure you're going to make this a success. And when the new boxing gym opens up, I'm sure that's going to be done really well, too.
I truly
you got
appreciate
the podcast. You're in all kind of different things.
Yeah.
Middleweight champ, Kelly Pavlik.
Thank you,
the
Jeff.
Ghost. Now, what did they call you? What was that other one?
The Ghost Express.
The Express.
Yes.
That was it. I looked at it. I said, damn, I didn't know he had two nicknames.
Yeah, I tell you,
News to you, too.
I hear a lot of things I don't know about.
We ain't going there. All right, 42 total fights, 40 wins, 34 by knockout, only the 2 losses.
Yep.
Tremendous career. Wish you the best of luck here. Come down to My Gym. If you live in Canfield, Poland, you're 15. I live in Canfield, right by the high school. It's actually 16 minutes from my drive to right here. It's a great place. It's very unassuming, and it's a great place to work out. And Roy is great. And you got a personal trainer down here he's phenomenal to work with. And he'll give you all kind of help and all kind of pointers.
Come train like a champion.
Right here at My Gym. That's going to do it. We're going to be right back with more 66 Days to Success. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. It was a great interview with him. Kelly the Ghost Pavlik. He is a very, very good, genuine young man. He's really setting some goals for himself to move on in the future, not with My Gym that he's doing in Columbiana, but with other enterprises that he's thinking of doing and other local charities that he's looking to help. He's really turned in to a great young man. And I'm very proud of him. I'm proud to say that I know Kelly as a friend. I've watched him come up as an amateur, go through the pros, and now I see him today as a mid-30s young man with a lot to give to our community and a long way to go with the rest of his life. Very proud of him. Hope you learned something. Set those goals. Start working on them. Don't give up. Keep going day after day after day after day. It's never ending. If you fail, that's okay. I've been failing since January. I'm not quitting yet. I wake up every day with a smile on my face, knowing one thing. Today, I'm going to be a better person than I was yesterday, and I'm going to go after my goal. And if I fail, I wake up tomorrow and I start all over again. So I hope you have a great month. I hope you enjoyed this interview with Kelly the Ghost Pavlik, and we'll see you again real soon on 66 Days to Success.